Welcome to Our Drummers Musicians. I'm your host Luke, and today I'm talking with Danny Fischer, one of the most respected jazz drummers and educators in Australia. Danny has played with just about everyone in the Australian jazz scene, but his career has also taken him across the globe. After studying at the Victorian College of the Arts, he toured internationally, received an Australia Council grant to study in London, and he spent a decade living and working in New York. Danny has played with some of the world's best musicians and built an incredible wealth of experience. This week on the podcast, he shares some brutally honest and often hilarious stories about what it was really like to be a jazz drummer in the world's most competitive scene. We also talked about his yoga practice and how it's influenced both his drumming and the very practical challenge of carrying drums around New York. He opened up about the struggles and successes of his time overseas, what led him to move back to Melbourne, and how he brings a highly personalised approach to teaching, something that I can personally vouch for. This chat was full of wisdom, humour, and insight into the reality of being a jazz musician. I hope you enjoy. How have you been?
Yeah, I've been okay. Compared, I've been great.
It's not a comparative challenge.
No, I know, but it does help because it always keeps you. It helps keep you in perspective.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I only got COVID for the first time, whenever it was that we were trying to sort of tee this up.
Yep. Oh, yeah, right. When you were like, I think I'm sick.
Yeah, and then it shifted into my lungs. And for the next 6 weeks or 7 weeks, I just had this persistent cough. And I thought there'd be nothing worse than us having this conversation. And I was just like, look, I'm really sorry. I just can't do it for the sake of coughing my guts out.
And now we get the nice, like, dulcet baritone. Yeah.
I know. I can't wait.
Like El Kerr, just like
I
beautiful.
know, isn't it just, I was just lost listening to that one. If I could sound like that, oh my God.
I asked him because I was like, have you ever like done voiceover work? And he was like, I got approached, but they said I had to fully commit. But I wanted to play.
He wanted to fully commit to something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, but it always sort of sits there in the back of my mind.
Ow.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, we can talk about that at some point later, but yeah, I have massive respect for actors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did a big band project once that had 2 actors doing vocal spoken word.
Oh.
I love just listening, diction, and love the way that they'd speak the dialogue throughout this piece of music. I was so into it. And I could hear their voices from television, so I knew that they'd either been in some television show or, I could hear their voiceover on an ad for something, and I go, oh, that's that.
Oh, it triggered the memory.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm like, wait, why am I hearing an insurance ad during we're recording this big band album? Oh, that's why.
Wow. Was it like a I don't know, like a performance piece, like big band with like theater sort of like combined?
Yeah. It was a fascinating piece that Jeremy Rose, the saxophone player, put together, and it was part of his PhD research. So he wrote a suite for big band and narration based on some pretty grim Australian history. So he read Robert Hughes's The Fatal Shore, which is like the kind of like, it's a little dated now, but it's like the brutal truth of Australian history.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out Lucy Turnbull, which is Malcolm Turnbull's wife, is the niece of the writer. Robert Hughes? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so she is the blood niece. So Jeremy Rose needed permission from the Hughes estate. So he approached Malcolm and Lucy Turnbull to get permission, which they did.
Wow.
So he got a grant. There were a few of us that flew from Melbourne, like Joe O'Connor, myself, James McCauley, and Scott McConaughey. Remember that saxophone player?
Sounds familiar.
And so we went to Sydney. It was like 2 days rehearsing, 2 days recording, and the actors had recorded their dialogue, so that was coming in through the cans.
Mm-hmm.
And we did live performances of it, and and you go, oh, that's the guy, So I was geeking out to more the actors rather than any of the musicians I was playing with or anything like that. I was more like, oh my God, you're an actor. How cool is that?
Wow.
And he was just amazed by what we were doing with Jeremy's music. And I was more amazed by his delivery of dialogue.
Wow.
Because for me, I was just like, I do this shit every day, man. And it's like, whatever. But it was good fun.
I guess it's like one of the few times where you're like amongst other professionals, but like they're doing their thing and you're doing yours, because otherwise, you're just around like musicians.
Yeah. Yeah,
whatever.
I mean, and when you're with a bunch of musicians, that's when they kind of like, gets a little bit bitchy, and you're just like, I don't like that guy's playing. I don't like the way he's playing that phrase, but it's good to take you out of that sort of phrase for a bit.
Yeah,
where you go, oh, yeah, cool. This is, but I geek out to TV and movies and video games and everything from behind the scenes kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
I look at everything in this very sort of like, structured kind of thing. Like if I'm watching a movie, I'm going, okay, right, so we've got first act, second act, third act. Okay, who's playing love interest? Who's doing exposition? Who's doing comic relief? And it drives my partner nuts.
Are you like verbalizing this as it's...
Occasionally.
Okay.
Yeah, and that really drives her nuts even more. Or then we'll talk about it afterwards. And I say, oh, yeah, but, the third act was... Or definitely that second act was really kind of stretching the exposition a bit. And she's just like, who thinks like that when we're watching a movie like this? I do, sorry.
Just enjoy the film.
No, I can't. Or, you watch a sitcom or one of those... sort of drama serials on like made for television. They're always done in a 5-act structure. So I'm always looking at, right, first act is the cold open, right, boom. Okay, sets the scene. Second act, we need some drama. Third act, we need the comedy relief for the second act. Okay, fourth act now is really, then the fourth act is really where the stakes get high, and then the fifth act is when it has your resolution, and at the tail end of the fifth act is like, what's the moral lesson that we've learned in today's episode? I'm just like, oh,
wow. Have you like studied film and television? Like, where does this all come from? Wow.
Yeah. Anyway.
That's pretty cool though.
Yeah.
I realize now that I didn't put any cool records out. Because I know that you're a massive like music album fan, and it's always fun to like pull out something that's kind of interesting, but like I'm looking over and being like, I've just got guest albums up, and that's like pretty lame, but that's what I was listening to.
I think that's beautiful. What's wrong with that?
Well, it leads me to my question. What's the most recent album that you've listened to?
I was listening to Keith Jarrett from 1973, recorded at the Village Vanguard with the American Quartet/Quintet. The album, I think you can pronounce it Fort Yahweh, which is kind of like a play on the words fourth way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge fan of the Keith Jarrett American Band. I have everything that they've released commercially, and I listen to it kind of obsessively. And it's like a desert island thing that I can listen to any one of those records and it always makes me feel better, no matter what my mood.
Wow.
I can just sort of put it on and go, oh, I love this. My thing about music is I love, and I don't know, maybe you certainly might be able to help in this regard. The thing that I love listening to in music, and I don't know if it exists so much anymore, is this idea of a working band.
Mm-hmm.
One that was able to exist. That might not have existed for a particularly long period of time, but at least enough where there was enough work for the group to get a sound and enough recorded output for us as hungry consumers to sort of take it all in and savor every note. So I've always been a fan of a stable working band, and I'm not crazy about you know, like an artist with a pickup rhythm section type thing. I understand the economic realities of this kind of thing, but I just love hearing working groups who almost have that, not almost have that telepathic connection and in any style of music. To make it as broad and as eclectic it is like, do you guys get each other? Can you read each other's minds? Do you groove as one? Yeah. Okay, great. I'll press play.
You have an awesome interview where you go through, I think it's like 5 albums that made an impact on you or something on YouTube. And like listening to the way, like, because you spoke a bit about like that band with Jarrett and this idea of the working group. And I think like, Danny Fischer fans probably already have watched it, but like anyone else who doesn't, like it's so awesome listening to your enthusiasm for the albums and like the chronology as you discover them in different decades of your life, and like the passion and excitement that you have for music. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, that's very kind of you to say. I certainly had fun chatting with Aaron. He's an old mate of mine,
right?
But just to you know, give you a bit of spoilers.
Yeah.
That was our second attempt. Oh. So we went for the first, and it just went off on a weird. I'm sorry, Aaron. I've outed you, but it just went off on this weird tangent, and it didn't quite make that much sense. But we narrowed down the questions, and then I sort of subverted his questions into something that I kind of thought I'd be more comfortable talking about.
Sure.
So I did a tiny little bit of sort of mental research before we had the chat, and then I just remembered, I've got this in my, I'm good. I could talk about this for hours. I'm good, Aaron. Let's go.
Well, it was really interesting for me listening to like the way you described that your dad had this amazing record collection, and like the excitement of a new record coming in, or him like recommending one for you. Were you into the music that he was playing when you were younger than like a teenager? Did you like the same music when you, like, your earliest memories of music?
Okay. Oh man, that's a really good question, because I was actually thinking about that question this morning.
Oh, okay.
Beforehand, yeah. I don't know if I liked it, but I heard it, and my memories of certain tunes and certain albums will never go away. So I'll ask you in just a moment, because I'm really curious for your side of it. So I come from that slightly older generation where we don't have CD stackers in the car. We don't even have CDs in the car. We have to make cassettes. So we have to tape an LP onto a cassette, and then we have to label.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. So this is early 80s kind of thing. And my dad would make these cassettes as we'd go on our family holiday in the car. Oh. And I remember certain tracks. I remember certain albums like it was yesterday. My dad was a huge fan of a Pat Metheny group album called Off Ramp. I think that came out in like 1982. I know the cover because it's black. It's on ECM. I can tell you everyone who's on it, and I can even tell you what tracks are on. You know, I have that sort of visual memory. It's also my favorite iteration of the Pat Metheny group. So it's Pat Metheny, Lyle Mays, Steve Rodby has just joined. Danny Gottlieb is still there from the previous Pat Metheny group, and Nana Vasconcelos is on percussion. And I remember this album so well because the first track I think is called Bacol or Bacole, and you hear this sort of dum 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 dum, and I'm like, oh my god, what is this? And then the next track is Are You Going With Me, which is one of the most famous Pat Metheny compositions. There's a tune on there called James, written for James Taylor, which is a beautiful melody. And there's a tune called 18, which is this really great tune where apparently Manfred thought it sounded like Steve Reich's piece Music for 18 Musicians. Huh. I don't think, no. Anyway, and I just love the tune. So, Pat Metheny, Off Ramp, Heavy Weather, Weather Report, like the opening phrases of Birdland, I will never get out of my head because that was on the cassette on our road trip. Billy Joel. My old man and my mum used to love listening to Billy Joel. What else do I... Charles Lloyd Forest Flower. Recorded at the Monterey Jazz Festival in maybe 1966, 67. God, oh no, maybe it's a bit later actually. Sorry, my memory's a bit bad. But it's recorded came out on Atlantic Records. It's half live, half studio. It's the famous Charles Lloyd Quartet with Charles Lloyd, Keith Jarrett, Cecil McBee, and Jack DeJohnette. Mm-hmm. And side A is this. I love the tune Forest Flower, which my drum teacher told me was actually written in dedication to the drummer Chico Hamilton's son, Forrest Hamilton.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. And Charles Lloyd used to play in Chico Hamilton's band. Mm. So I remember Forest Flower. I remember that record very well. So and the Miles Davis record, Milestones. Mm-hmm. Got a famous cover, the man in the green shirt. He's standing there with a horn on his side, and that's the sextet. So it's that classic quintet of John Coltrane, Red Garland, Paul Chambers, Joseph Rudolph Jones. I'm just trying to be a bit more professional sounding rather than using that moniker of nickname, with Julian Cannonball Adderley. And I remember that record from road trips.
Mm-hmm. That was the first jazz album I ever bought.
You started with Milestones.
Yeah.
How could you go wrong from there? It's like, well, the problem is, it's like, what comes next? It's like, have we gone up from there? Is it down from there? Or how do we keep the plateau? I'm just going to listen to one of the greatest hard bop jazz records of all time as my first listening experience. What was second?
I don't know. I can't remember. Like, I bought lots of other records before, but like that was the first jazz one. Because other than big band records, I hadn't listened to jazz. I'd listened to a lot of fusion because Dad was really into fusion.
Okay, like what?
Well, like Dad liked the live albums from the Baked Potato of the jams of the studio musicians.
Awesome.
Yeah, so like I'm in the really lucky position where Dad was about 50, and I think for his birthday, the two of us went to LA to go to the Baked Potato, and so we were there for 3 nights, and it was Abe Laboriel Sr. with Abe Laboriel Jr. on drums, Mike Landau and Greg Matheson, and so I used to listen to that same band but with Vinnie Colaiuta on drums. Dad had all of these like live. I don't know where he got them from, but like just endless 16-minute fusion jams after, a long, hard day's work of these huge session musos would just come and just play. And like the next night was Mike Landau's trio with Gary Novak and Jimmy Johnson. Yeah. And then the third night was the same band again, and all double setters, and it was all the music that Dad used to play. Yeah.
So how unlucky or how lucky are we for our our childhood experiences blaming our fathers for the music that they've got us into?
But I distinctly remember really not liking it when I was young. Like, it took me a while because I've already told this story on the podcast, but Dad used to play like a fusion song that would be like 16 minutes long in our like family car rides where everybody could only pick one song each.
Oh, you mentioned that.
Yeah, with Danny Fischer. And like, it was brutal. It was just like, this is awful. Like, what is this noise? And it took me maybe like 10 years. And the same thing, like he'd play Steely Dan. And I was like, this music is gross. Like, the guy can't sing. The lyrics are weird. Like, what is happening? But then when I was like 12 or 13, it was like, oh wow, that band is amazing.
Hey, you are 30-something years ahead of me in your hipness to Steely Dan. I only started, absolutely, truly appreciating Steely Dan in my 40s. I'm very sorry for anyone listening that's offended by what I just said, but I love them now. It wasn't that I had anything against them. I just didn't actually hear their music. And then years later, someone played it to me, like played me Asia when we were on a road trip.
Oh, wow.
That's a very American term, sorry, but I was in America at the time, and one of my bandmates put it on.
Oh, cool.
I was like, man, this is incredible. You know, this is awesome. And then you hear the title track Asia, and then it's like, oh, you're trying to tell me that Steve Gadd came in after the rest of the band had tracked that tune, came in the next day, possibly did one, maybe two takes, because I don't think anyone's quite confirmed, basically read the chart and just, yeah, that sigh is the sound of just pure mastery of what Steve Gadd plays on that track.
Mm.
And he just orchestrates so beautifully. And it's untouchable. You just go, no wonder people still ask for it. No wonder people still want to hear it. No wonder people still obsess over, hey, is that a stick click or is that a mistake in that first drum break? But all of it is priceless, the halftime floor tom hits, or the way that he navigates those hits during the drum and the saxophone solo.
Mm.
Or when he goes in that sort of rock samba thing right at the very end on the fade out.
Yes.
And you just yeah, exactly, right? You do that, and you do your fist bump in the air like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like, I couldn't have thought of doing that, but when you hear him do it, you just go, yeah, that's pure.
Mm.
That's why there is Steve Gadd in this world.
Yeah.
And we, and the way that I feel is like, yes, I appreciate every single note that Steve Gadd has put on record, because that makes the world just a little bit more of a beautiful place.
Which band were you touring with at the time?
That was a cooperative group we had for a few years. It was a band called Spoke. Mm-hmm. We did a few albums. We were just able to just piece together some small performances in random towns and states across the US through their connections. And we just loved it, because we just loved playing as a band. So if we could cobble together a few dates, make a little bit of money, we're like, yes, let's do it. Mm-hmm. Because we loved each other's company, we loved the music that we were playing. We thought, why not? We were young, we were relatively single, we didn't have particular attachments. It's like, yeah, this is what we're supposed, this is what we feel like we're born to do, mm-hmm. is to play, is to try and bring some music to the world. So it was fascinating, because the three members, Justin Wood, Andy Hunter, and Dan Loomis, they were all really terrific composers, and I loved playing all of their compositions. And we had we got into a concept that I adored, in the fact that we started to sound like a band. Mm-hmm. We could read each other telepathically. We had a book of maybe 30 to 40 tunes, which is good. And then the next thing we did was that we put them to memory. So visually, no one would ever see us play with a chart. Mm-hmm. So we would memorize the entire book.
Wow.
We'd bring one book of charts with us in, in our whatever vehicle we had hired. So if we needed to refresh a chart, we could read it before the show, but never would there be a chart anywhere in eyesight. So we were mm-hmm. big on the visual thing. And then we limited our tune length as well. So none of this 15-minute baked potato jam extravaganza. We were really keen on the idea of just bang, like in and out as quick as we could, even if we had, like a 50-minute set for a festival. We'd try to get 8 or 9 tunes.
Oh, wow.
And it was great discipline. So we'd play, maybe we had a straight ahead type tune, and we'd say, right, okay, 2 soloists max, 2 choruses each. If you don't get there, too bad. But it was that real discipline. Wow. And it was great. It was awesome for us to have that kind of discipline. Mm. So we actually knew how long someone's solo was going to be for. We didn't know what they were going to play, but especially for myself and Dan, the bass player, we could sort of get an idea of like, okay, well, we know how long the horn solo is going to be. So we know when we can kick it up a gear to reach the climax of that person's solo, because we know when the climax will be, because they don't get an extra chorus. We're not leaving something to chance. Mm-hmm. And we found that it was just great discipline for all of us.
Whose idea was it to do these things, like memorize all the charts, no charts on stage?
All of us.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Oh, yeah, there was not one part of the band saying, no, I don't want to do that. We were actually all in agreement, which is probably why it worked.
Yes.
Because if you go, even just, it even just takes one. No, but yeah, all four of us, we were down for it.
Yeah, cool.
It was great discipline. We loved it.
I find it so interesting that you have like played so many, I suppose, like dream gigs for like the jazz drummer. Like, you know, you've lived in New York and toured the States and lived in the UK and toured Europe, and like you played Montreux Jazz Festival and Ronnie Scott's, and like then you keep coming back to Melbourne in between all of these like big, what like a young jazz drummer might see as like the aspirational thing to like, you know, be this jazz artist that's made it and is like playing these, you know, Billboard style venues or festivals and things. But you keep coming back to Australia and Melbourne. Why is that?
Because it burst the bubble on that beautiful preamble that you just did. Because you've made the idea of something sound far greater than what it might be. So we can either live the dream or we start talking reality.
Is that something you're comfortable to do?
Possibly. I must say I'm fascinated with the way that you might observe my career as a third person. Because for me, it's almost like my memory is so bad of things past,
right?
Because I'm thinking of what's next. What have I just finished working on, and what's coming up next that I could put my attention to. And I find that quite helpful for me to exist, even just as a human. To me, to try not to feel discouraged, to try not to feel that I'm not inspired, which does happen because I'm human. There are times when I'm like, but it helps me on a mental point of view to stay focused and to keep practicing. Like, oh, okay, what's next? That was yesterday. I appreciate someone looking at what I've done yesterday. It's very flattering. But I tend to feel very much today and tomorrow.
Do you think like part of that is like the nature of the work? Because once a gig ends, that's potentially the end of the album or the end of the tour. So you have to look for, what opportunity will come next at a practical level? Or are you thinking just, I don't know, purely conceptually, like that is a good headspace to be in? Or like developmentally, where can I take my concepts next? Rather than, this constant retrospective look. I've given you like 3 options, but the answer's endless.
I think I would say conceptual, in that I'm trying to just be in the moment, no matter what I'm doing. I'm sitting here trying to just be in the moment, which means no yesterday, no tomorrow, not even what do I have to do after this is finished. What am I doing right in this moment? And when I am performing, that's what I'm really striving for more than anything else, is just to be in the moment. What does this music need? What am I able to contribute to this event, this moment in time? And what is the greater reason for doing it as well is something I've always been thinking about. I think very, 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 very deeply about when I'm performing, why I'm performing, what I'm performing, as in even just what part of a drum set I might be playing. Thinking in the sense of, well, what impact to this event, to this music, can I make when someone has, generously or kindly asked me to perform with them. So even from that moment, I'm appreciative of someone asking me to perform with them. It even gets to that level.
Right.
I am grateful and appreciative that I receive an email or I get a text message or whatever form of communication you want to put. It's essentially someone saying, are you free to work with me? And I'm like, oh, that's very kind of you. I appreciate that. Because it's very easy to not receive that. There are many, many times in my life, I would never want to sugarcoat. There have been many times when there were moments of not performing, not being asked to do anything. So I guess it's a beautiful thing to appreciate later, this midlife thing that I'm in at the moment, where I can look back on some of my times in London where I had nothing. I can look back at certain times in New York where I most certainly didn't have anything, because I was one of, if not thousands of drummers who lived in that city. When I first moved to that city, I knew 2 people, and I stayed on a friend's couch for 2 weeks, and from there I ended up staying close to 10 years. I didn't intend to stay that long, just life just sort of took that sort of path. I had an idea of what it was that I thought that I might like to do. I only thought maybe that I would stay for 6 months. And 6 months just kept turning into another 6 months and turned into another 6 months. But I slowly realized that the power of music in that city, the importance of rhythm, and how you can make friends, like really dear friends, just through a connection of music, which is how partly that band Spoke came about, because we became friends through interesting circumstances, but it didn't really matter. There's a beautiful culture. I mean, I'm terribly out of touch because I haven't been back there for quite some time. I hope it still exists, but there was a beautiful culture of just getting together with people to play. What people would call a session, a jam session. Not a jam session here where it's at night and you go to a club. There are those too. But a day session at someone's apartment, and you would invite a bunch of people round.
Right.
And you play for hours, partly to make connections, but just to play, to meet people, to work on your own stuff, to work on reading, because someone might bring in an original or something. And you do hours and hours of playing, and it was great. It was awesome. Like one crazy story I remember of it was just one of these random days where you make these connections. I'd already had 2 3-hour sessions booked in for a day. So it was a bass player's mate. We were going to play for 3 hours, and then I think I was going to go to a saxophone player's house, and we we're going to play for another 3 hours. It was like great, 6 hours of playing. It's great for your physical well-being as a drummer if you can do it. And keep in mind, they had drums in their apartment. So it's not like, right. oh yeah, no, come on. Cymbals on my back on the subway, that's it.
Yes.
Like I'm not. Yeah, we can talk those other stories later, but so, go to this person's house, you play for a few hours, have a cup of tea in between, but you really play, and it's super fun. And then I went to another person's place. But to backtrack just slightly, I got a phone call in the morning from this trumpet player mate of mine. He says, "Hey, listen, there's like a blues shuffle gig tonight from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. Yeah. Oh yeah, you work hard in that city.
Whew.
Yeah. And I'm in this shuffle band. They need a drummer for tonight. Are you free?" I'm like, "Of course. I'm in New York. You say yes to anything and everything, So I'd already, so I knew I was going to get home at around 5 or 6 o'clock at night from playing those 2 sessions. So I'd been playing for about 6 hours, and I knew I had another 6 hours ahead of me. But it was 6 sets of shuffles. Like, not just a tune here or a tune there, or like, oh, we're kicking up a tune and we're going to go into shuffle for like 20 seconds on a tune. No, this was 6 sets of shuffles. And by the end, you're just like, oh, man, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't ever want to play a shuffle ever again. No offense to shuffles, by the way. I love them. But after 6 hours of them, you sort of go, wow. But maybe that showed my weakness as a drummer, that I should have known more variations on a shuffle to get through 6 hours or 6 sets of playing all different kinds of shuffles. But I didn't have enough time to shed any shuffles because I only got home at like 5 or 6 o'clock that day. And then I did this. So the funny thing was that, and it was in Times Square, and I bumped into a friend of mine at 3:30 in the morning on 42nd Street station, and he had just come from a 6-hour hit as well. And we were both just absolutely destroyed. We were knackered, and we were sitting waiting for the train, and we sort of had this deal with each other. It's like, okay, whoever passes out at 42nd Street, the other one will wake the other person up, letting them know that the train's there. And whoever passes out on the subway, the other person has to wake them up to say, hey, man, this is your stop. Mm-hmm. So we're kind of looking out for each other. But we had that mutual understanding and appreciation of each other. Like, oh, did you just play 6 sets at venue X? Oh, you just did 6 sets at venue Y, didn't you? And you go, mm-hmm.
Wow. Who's going to a 6-set gig?
I don't know. I wasn't really... I was more thinking, how do I get through 6 sets? Not doing a sort of head count.
Yeah, that's fair. But wow. Amazing.
There was a venue in Union Square, which unfortunately doesn't exist anymore. It was a restaurant that put on live jazz trios, and they had a piano. And man, you could book some really good players to do this gig. Mm-hmm. I've got to make sure I get this right because this is insane. So Sunday matinee, yeah. Oh, they do like a Sunday brunch, Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So Sunday 2 shows, and then Monday through Thursday it would be 4 sets. It would be about 4 hours, mm-hmm. And there'd be lots of different bands because you've got so many people in New York hungry for work. Fridays and Saturdays they do 6 p.m. to midnight. So that's 6 sets.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. So I remember, I would take my junky little kit I'd take my drums on the subway. I lived on a 3rd floor walk up. So you've got to imagine that you're going to lift your drums and carry them down 3 flights of stairs just to get to street level. Then you walk to the subway, and then you've got to go down 2 flights of stairs because it's obviously a subway. Hope that your subway train is not too crowded so you can actually get on. Then you've got to carry... So I'd get to Union Square, and then I've got to carry my drums up 2 or 3 flights of stairs back to street level, then carry them back down 2 flights of stairs to the basement of the restaurant, and then set up your drums. And then you'd play for 6 sets, and then you pack up your drums, and then you do everything back in reverse. So it'd be an 8-hour day for you. But, man... In terms of learning tunes, because you've got to play 6 sets, it was just... I think about it now, and I appreciate every set, every hour, every minute of what I didn't truly appreciate at the time.
It's one of those things, I guess, where you're absorbing it all, but you're also just trying to hang on. So it's only afterwards that you're like, oh yes, yeah, that was good.
Oh yeah, I was hanging on for dear life, absolutely.
Yeah, that's wild. 6 hours, yeah.
It's very tough to describe that to someone else. To describe it to a young, impressionable Australian drummer who either might be a student or who comes to see you play. It's like, oh, are you tired after playing 2 sets? I'm like, 2 sets? Oh, come on.
So if you had it your way, what would be the ideal amount of sets for your ideal gig?
It depends who I'm playing with. It depends where I am. There's no ideal.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry.
No.
I've thought about it too. I was joking with a friend one time. And we were sort of saying, oh, what would be your what would be the fantasy gig? And we went, well, one where there's a really quick sound check. The sound is already awesome. there's really good backline already there, and there's a magic carpet that gets you to the venue. So you don't have to deal with any transportation issues, no parking, no nothing. And we sort of laughed about it. We're like, yeah, that's never happening.
Well, never say never.
Well, true, but yeah, I mean, the magic carpet was, in fact, that was almost like the most important part for both of us. It's like, okay, how are we getting there? Can we, even just our commute is going to stress us out.
Yeah, you've really popped the bubble of the starry-eyed view of carrying drums through the subway.
Yeah, sorry about that.
How did you physically carry drums, if I can ask that short practical question?
I had just the bare minimum that you could carry, in the sense that I had a small little floor tom conversion for a bass drum. I took off the front head. Apologies to anyone who's not a drummer listening to this, because it might be a bit boring, but took off the front, so the front head. I'd sort of tip it upside down, put my drum stool against the beater head, and I'd just pack all my stands, all my hardware inside the drum.
Wow.
And put that into my case. And I would have a trolley, and then I'd have a snare drum on top of that. And occasionally, if I needed another drum, I'd put like a floor tom on top of that, and then my cymbals on my back.
Wow.
And that was it. So yeah, you pay your dues in that regard. I don't quite know how to explain that to someone, but there you go.
No, it's excellent. Maybe like a really awesome illustrator will listen to this and then give me some visuals that I can. Yeah,
don't make the drums look too glamorous. I mean, you can for the purpose of illustration, but it might break what my reality was.
Wow.
But it was great. It was, I was young. I was hungry. I loved just like, bring it on. That was the, what is this reality? All right. How much can I bear doing this? Like, how long can I do this for? Which is in part the question of why I went home. Like, how long can I keep carrying this on the subway, doing this kind of work, until there's a part of me that says, I'm really sorry, I'm getting older, but also my priorities are changing. I did that for close to 10 years. Okay. Yeah, that was good. I learned a lot. I loved it. I have to make my peace. And it was pretty tough when I got back, mentally.
Right.
That was really tough when I first got back, because I think there was an element of that elusive dream that had popped, of why I went there in the first place. And then when I came back, I was like, what have I come back to? How do I rebuild myself? So it was a long process, but a really productive thing to go through to bring myself back to here, that I can still stay inspired, I can still want to work on things. To go through that low point of having that fatal question in your mid to late 30s, what does it all mean? What is the point of doing this? And how do I rebuild differently? How can I see myself for the future?
I don't know what to call your physical practice, but you know how you do a lot of flexibility and study of the body. How much do you think that physical but non-musical practice has influenced that, the creation of who you are and where you're going and the music? If you're happy to talk about it?
I can talk about it a little bit. I'll try not to go for too long. The way things sort of go, I don't know, not quite by accident, but just by circumstance or something. I was fortunate enough to have I found a place to live in New York, and I happened to be living with a drummer, and a really, really, really good drummer. who had a very, very successful career. And he was actually grateful for selling me that little floor tom conversion bass drum. And he was mad keen into yoga at the time.
Right.
And it was just as simple as, here, come and take a yoga class with me. I'm like, okay. And then something just started to click and trigger. I went, oh, I really quite enjoy this. But let's not beat around the bush. And if you're going to take your drums on the subway and you're going to play, 6 sets, you need to somehow find the stamina to get through it. At that stage, because I wasn't driving, ironically, my lifestyle was one of the healthiest I'd ever been in one of the most unhealthiest cities you could imagine. So I was like hardcore sort of like vegetarian/vegan at certain points, riding my bike a lot, doing, yoga 3-4 times a week. And I'm starting to feel like, oh man, I can actually physically carry my drums from a 3rd floor walk up and play 6 sets and get home and be able to do it the next day. So it's not only just that you do it on a Friday or a Saturday, but sometimes I would do the Sunday brunch as well at the same place. So you'd go, okay, I've just done 6 hours on Saturday, I'm going to do 4 hours Sunday. Right, but that's what I'm here for. So that kind of thing really helped. I did have a slight injury during that time where I incorrectly lifted the drums, and in a way I'm thankful for the injury because it made me really rethink the recovery of it and then how to use my back in better situations and more just luck. I was very fortunate to be able to live relatively actually quite close to you.
Right.
And there is a fantastic yoga instructor, and I have I do a one-on-one session with him every week after I've done a heavy week of teaching, performing, practicing, which all means I'm sitting, basically. That's what that essentially means, a lot of sitting. And I see him after a weekend, and basically he looks at me within a few seconds and he knows exactly how to stretch me out and what muscle groupings to focus on to sort of undo the damage of the week, which means I should be far more mindful in how I'm sitting at the drums and which deep core muscles that I need to activate when I'm doing all of these things. But, I am human and I am terribly forgetful at times too.
Well, especially when you're trying to be in the moment, if you're suddenly thinking, I better recorrect this muscle grouping here, it could take you out of that musical moment.
It might. I guess the trick would be to engage and also still be in that musical moment. I think that would be the ultimate for me.
Yes.
If I could engage that deep core abdominal muscles while I'm still not focusing that I've engaged my superficial abdominal muscles.
Maybe there will be this moment where you rock up on a Monday and all of a sudden you've done it for the week and everything is posturally engaged as it should be. You
know what the tragedy would be? There would be no need to go and see him again because I'd just achieved everything I'd wanted, but I have this guilty pleasure of going every week. So maybe I sabotage myself deliberately just so I can go back for more. I'm glad you get my humor in that sense.
Wow. Because it's quite impressive. Some of the things you post, I'm like, that is some incredible flexibility that you have. And I wonder how much it's like connected. But it's interesting to hear that it's like this weekly ritual, I suppose, and a lifelong physical engagement practice.
I thrive within... this is the great contradiction of my life. I thrive within structure and discipline. You tell me to be somewhere, you tell me that something needs to be done by a certain time, I'm saluting, I say, yes, absolutely. Leave me to my own devices. I can procrastinate with the best of them, but you give me a deadline, I thrive within structure and discipline. So I guess I need the structure from him. I need that structure of, okay, it's a set time every week. Great, let's do it. And we take the photos for fun, but we also review them in the sense because he can show me where my alignment is out. And that's just me putting that on Instagram just because it's fun. That's all. It's like, yeah, check me out with my legs up against the wall, hanging upside down and, stretching stuff out. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, I guess in that sense, I'm not really interested in posting doom and gloom. I read enough doom and gloom. So, and funnily enough, that's what, like you said, that's what people comment on more than anything else that I do. It's like, oh, man, I've seen the way you... Oh, thank you. That's like, that's only a very small part of my life, but thanks.
Yeah, there's probably 20 albums that you've described or said I'm listening to, and then the one photo where you're hanging upside down or your back's bent backwards or something. Everyone's like, yes, that's the one.
Bugger the music.
I wanted to ask finally about teaching.
Sure.
I was thinking about if I should say this on the podcast, but I'm going to do it because I've loved all my drum teachers and I've got something from them, but I've been telling people this privately for almost 10 years now. But you're the best drum teacher that I've ever had.
That's very kind of you to say. I'm terrible at receiving compliments. There's this part of me that just sort of goes into, I'm physically pushing back to that. But that's a beautiful thing of you to say. Can I, out of curiosity, what did I give you?
Without a critique of what anyone else did, I think it was not as much about what you physically gave me in terms of books or knowledge, but your presence and engagement with me in the practical constraints of where we were at the time with university. I can't remember if I saw you before I tore the ligament in my thumb, but I definitely saw you afterwards for a year or something whilst I was doing the degree at Monash. And you were very practical in, all right, well, we've got this limitation and you have this history of listening, but you're doing a jazz degree and you've got to do assignments, but you want to become a drummer that does this kind of work. So let's distill that into something that's achievable. And you gave it structure and discipline, like you have just outlined. But it really connected with me in a way that made me feel like it was personalized and it was inspiring and it was very, strict and caring all at once in that same way. You're putting me on the spot. I didn't think about
no, that's okay. I wasn't this, I certainly wasn't digging for a compliment. What I was really curious about, and you kind of inferred something which I'm happy to talk about, is a personalized approach to teaching. I'm hoping, best case scenario, every student of mine should have a unique experience, because I don't teach in a formula, and I absolutely respect teachers that do. Absolutely. It is not about that. I'm trying to just treat everyone as this unique individual with different needs, desires, concepts, anything. And all I'm trying to do is to empathize with you. Who are you? Where are you coming from? What do I know from my experience that could possibly help you? And if you are keen, if you're serious about this, I will give you everything that I have in that sense. So I'm very fortunate in the sense that I'm energized by teaching. I love it. I relish it. It is something that makes me feel good, and it did take me a while to learn how to teach. This, I don't mean that in a degree sense. I mean it in the sense of understanding my own limitations as a player, my own limitations as a communicator, my own limitations as delivering information, and then understanding what it is that I might be able to offer someone through my interests in, for example, anatomy. But how do I make that study of anatomy really relevant to a drummer so they become more efficient as drummers? I guess, and you can circle it back to my back injury of being able to say to a student, please listen to me. I'm going to show you physically how these drum grips work. I'm going to physically show you the wrist movements of German grip. I'm going to show you the wrist movements of French grip. I'm going to show you the forearm rotation of traditional grip. I'm going to show you these things for a reason, because I don't want you to injure yourself. I want you to be able to use what we have all been given for you to become the most efficient player that you possibly can. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of drum history that we can draw from. We should use that, we should absolutely plunder it. We should take everything that we possibly can in the sense of, how can I use all of this information for now? How do I use this information so I can play what this music requires? And it just comes from talking, comes from listening. Where's the student coming from? What are you into? And for me to come to that place in a very non-judgmental fashion about what your passion is. So, you're into listening to Gary Novak, Vinnie Colaiuta play jams at the Baked Potato. How am I ever going to fault that? What am I going to do? I'm going to go and look at clips of Gary Novak and Vinnie Colaiuta, and I'm going to really look very closely at certain hand movements and feet movement on. And I'll go back to a student and say, right, I just checked out X, Y, and Z. I know what I can show you in terms of a practice regime for you to reach that goal. If that's what you're after, we need to work on X, Y, and Z.
Where did that, joy for teaching for you come from? Like, was there a moment where that changed? Like, was it ever laborious?
No, I wouldn't say laborious. I was just inexperienced.
Okay.
The moment, and I remember the moment, I can always remember the moment. It was my first initial drum lesson with Michael Carvin in New York when I was 30. It was a long, interesting process to become a student of his, but I'd never been so taken with someone with such a magnetic personality, someone who could truly show me something that I didn't even realize I was looking for. But I'd never seen someone teach with such enthusiasm, such empathy, such sort of almost X-ray vision that he could look through any of his students and pull out something they didn't even know that they could do. And for him, it was almost like second nature. But I guess I was just so in awe, which is dangerous, but at the same time, it was one of these lightning moments that I will never forget. And I owe a great deal to him for many years of whatever path it is that I'm on now.
I'd love to have you back again to ask some more about what that journey and experience was like.
Anytime.
Yeah, it's so cool that when I asked you that, I saw your eyes immediately light up as you just went, "Oh yeah, I've got the moment." So thank you.
Pleasure.
We should wrap up with the podcast games because I'm aware of the time. So I've got a question for you from young drummer and musician Jack Foy.
Go for it, Jack.
Dear next guest, on our drummers, musicians, the thing that I would like to know is, what is the worst gig you've ever played? And that can be like, it's bad because like you played badly, or just the setting was bad, something went wrong, you didn't like the music, someone was a jerk, whatever. Interpret that how you will. The worst gig you've ever played.
Oh, if I ever bump into that person on the street. Okay. Can I slightly subvert that question? And the reason I want to subvert it is I try really hard not to think like that. But that is not a diss against him in any shape or form. Mm-hmm. I'm actually not trying to think of best or worst anymore. And it's really difficult to do, but it is very important to me to try to like get through. So my answer to this would be, what was my most challenging performance? Mm-hmm. One of the most challenging ones I ever had, and it is one of those classic New York ones, was that I got a phone call at like 9 o'clock on a Saturday night. It was a bass player I knew. He says, do you want to play at a jam session from midnight to 3 a.m.? Pays $50. I'm like, yep, absolutely. I am there. There are drums at the venue. Mm-hmm. And it was up, like, uptown, Upper West Side. And I lived in Brooklyn at the time, so it was a little bit of a trek to get there. But I was like, yeah, I'm there. And he says, listen, we'll play for the first set, bass, drums, piano. We'll do like a rhythm section first set. And then, for the next 2 hours, it turns into a jam session. There'll always be drummers there, yada, yada, yada. You just have to stick around till the end and we play the last tune. And then we go. I went, great, yeah, cool. Awesome. So I get there, meet the bass player, meet the piano player, and it's a small stage, which is fine. No problem. But the problem is there's no room for horn players to be on the stage. And so they are playing on a wall that is facing my right ear. So the band is facing sort of north towards the punters, but anyone that wants to sit in as a horn player are to my side. So they are just blasting into my right ear. And on that particular night, at this particular venue, no drummers showed up to sit in. So I actually played from midnight to 3 a.m. without a break. Like, I played for 3 hours straight. And there was one point where there were, I've got to make sure I get this right, it's pretty funny. There were like 2 tenors, 2 altos, 2 trumpets, I think like 3 trombone players, but they were all sitting in on the same tune. And they're all like, all of them are blasting into my right ear while we're playing this tune. And then on top of that, there is an air conditioning vent in the ceiling, and it's dripping on my head because we're in summertime. So like every now and then you just go, pop. Like while I'm trying to play, and I was like, what is going on? So there's no such thing as this worst gig, but my most challenging was playing from 12 to 3 a.m. with horn players just blaring into my ear with the air conditioning dripping on my head.
Oh, that's outrageous. But thank you. And I appreciate the reframing of that. And that's an excellent way to look at it too. I'm sure that, yeah. I remember I was at Mount Gambier Jazz Festival, and at one of the venues, someone had because the tent gets condensation on it. I can't remember who it was in my band, but someone was being dripped on during the big band gig. It's just giving me the flashback of the hilarity of like, where's this coming from?
Yeah, there's this fantastic saying a Sydney musician friend of mine says. He's got that really low, smoky voice. He says, start at the bottom, learn to love it. And I just thought...
well, I have a thank you message from Jack because
I just want to say thank you for answering my question, Danny. Hi, lovely to hear from you. Lovely to see you. It's been a while, and I can't wait to listen to your response in your episode.
Oh, you're most kind. Sorry for subverting the answer.
I would highly recommend listening to Jack's answer because I put the question back on him and he also shared a hilariously challenging story.
Great.
What question would you like to ask the next guest?
My question would be, how do you stay motivated and driven to stay on the path that you're on?
Excellent. We should end with the rapid fire 5 questions.
Go for it.
What is your favourite venue to play in Melbourne?
I'm appreciative of all venues that have live music. Some I appreciate more than others.
We've already touched on the dream venue, but I'll ask it. What would be your dream venue to play at?
One that has a magic carpet. One that has everything set up. One that requires a very short sound check. I know it's not very helpful, but I kind of do it for a reason. Sorry.
Maybe there needs to be an adjacent move in your career from, like, the certain genre that you're a specialist in to a more... The chauffeur
you
will
mean something
arrive
with mass,
and you have
mass appeal?
Maybe a drum tech does all of the setup for you and the car picks you up
No. Sorry, I need to manifest a bit better. Sorry about that.
What is your coffee order?
Embarrassingly, I don't drink caffeine.
Feel no shame because I don't either.
Oh, okay then. That's easy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you drink hot beverages at all?
Not really.
Cold beverages?
Too much.
Okay.
So a bit too damp. Yeah, too much of cold water. I'm addicted to it, but occasionally green tea. But yeah, lately, if I'm really craving the smell, and it's so embarrassing, I might make decaf at home just for the smell of it. But I don't drink caffeine, and I haven't had tea in quite a while. So I've sort of tried to stay off pretty much most. God, it makes me a bit dull, doesn't it? Whoops. Sorry.
What's your favourite place to get food after a gig in Melbourne?
I don't. I go home. There's a mental thing in me. As I was younger, sure, it's all part of the hang. But I'm older. I want to go home. I want to go to bed.
You're not that much older.
No, I know, but I feel it sometimes. No, I think my priorities sort of change. I'm like, yeah, okay, work is done. And I like some time for myself. Okay, maybe that's a better way to put it. I'm actually a very, quite an introverted person. I can play in an extroverted way, but that's kind of because I actually feel protected when I'm performing. It's like I've got this force field of drums, sort of thing. But once the performance is over, I'm back to me. There's nowhere to hide. And sometimes I need my space. I just need to decompress from the work. And sometimes being in the car, driving home when it's late and there isn't much traffic, I can use that time to really just get back to me. So, it's tricky sometimes for me to be around people after a performance. I need that me time. I think it is partly because it's so out of my social comfort zone to perform, to be in those social situations where you do talk to people constantly, but I'm playing in such an extroverted way. I have to recharge from it. I have to somehow put myself back together again so I can do it again whenever I'm needed.
Finally, what's one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
Have some fun with it. Don't take it so seriously.
Danny, thanks so much for doing this podcast. It's been so special to have this time to chat with you and see you again after all these years. And you're just an inspiring musician, and an amazing teacher, and I really appreciate you sharing so much vulnerability in our conversation, and also some very funny and exciting stories as well.
It's very kind of you. I really hope I haven't sort of gone off on a tangent too much and talked too much.
Not at all.
But it's been an absolute pleasure and so lovely to catch up over these years.
I'm not sure if I want to make this a repeat or not, but because Jack gave you a message, the next guest who's going to answer your question is Jerry Pantazis.
Oh, wow. I met Jerry at a beautiful moment, and we don't know each other well, but I have awesome respect for Jerry's work, and hopefully he'll get to hear that part of it. So hi, Jerry. Man, hats off to what you do and what you've been able to consistently do, which is really inspiring. The question wouldn't change, not one bit. I'd just be fascinated to know Jerry's answer. Yeah. Because he's been actually on a path longer than I have. No offense, of course. But yeah, what drives Jerry? I'd love to know. Because the thing that I'm interested in more than anything else sometimes is I just actually like learning about people. What drives you? Yeah. That energizes me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty special. That's why I love to do this. It's a beautiful thing you're putting out to the world. Well, thanks so much, Danny. Pleasure. Thanks for joining us on Our Drummers Musicians. I hope you enjoyed diving into the world of another musician as much as I did. Help us grow by leaving a review and sharing the podcast with your friends, family, favorite artist, or anyone else who might enjoy it. For more info and updates, visit ourdrummersmusicians.com. See you next time.